Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Dr. Carolin Hauser Carson, who will share her journey, struggles, and how to create our own paradise. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. While you're there, you can sign up for a monthly email where I share the best articles I read this month, let you know about upcoming episodes, and share a little wisdom. You can also listen to coaching calls under the Coaching Calls tab. I also share the most interesting articles I read every week on Facebook at facebook.com/Richer Soul. And there's also a Facebook group where you can ask questions and interact with other listeners. In the past, I've talked about how the cold shower can really help as an action step, and some of our guests have mentioned it as well. I've been doing this on and off for a while. In the beginning, it was really shocking, but now my body is used to it. There's a lot of science behind why this can help, and many cultures do something similar. Of course, sometimes I get out of my routine, and I forget. And then I remember, oh yeah, I need to put that back in. It helps. Is there something that you've done in the past that helped you move forward, and you've forgotten about it, or gotten out of the routine of doing it? Is it time to put it back into your schedule? We're coming up on tax time. And there's going to be a lot of surprised people as the rules changed last year, as did the withholdings. And as always, I have my mini rant about how you need to focus on the total taxes paid versus your refund. You don't do the happy dance when the cashier gives you change, and you shouldn't do it when the government refunds the interest-free loan you've provided them throughout the year. If you're getting a refund, have you decided how you're going to use it to build wealth? Or will it disappear on something you won't remember a year from now? We all make choices in life, and being intentional and upfront and thinking through the opportunity cost of doing something else. For example, if I spend it on one item or an experience I desire today, what do I have to say no to later because I don't have the money for it? It's hard to say no in the present for something that's going to come in the future. But those who do have the ability to create freedom in their life. And after all, that's really what we're all after. Our guest today has struggled with these choices in the past, and she's made some bad money decisions. A little bit about her before we begin. Carolin Hauser Carson is a German-trained naturopathic doctor, humanistic psychotherapist, and family constellations facilitator. She's the author of the book Blossom, your 7-step journey to healing childhood sexual abuse and creating your dream life. An internationally recognized speaker and teacher on the subjects of spirituality, emotional healing, and women's empowerment for almost a decade. Carolin established empoweredbusinesswomen.com in 2008 and the Blossom Journey telecourse in 2010. She created a very unique virtual business model which allows her to share her knowledge with more people than she could ever personally see in the day. She began to write her book, develop products, and speak on her approach to a life of powerful co-creation, deep personal transformation, and connected purpose. Today, she combines her knowledge in emotional healing, spiritual truth, and authentic business building to help women connect to their life's mission that spurs truly fulfilling careers, amazing contributions, and abundance in the areas of health and relationships. Her work is based on the intersection of where the human body and experience meets past and even ancestral trauma, and shows how each individual's authentic and true self is the source of one's own good, a place of unlimited abundance, creativity, courage, and joyful existence. Let's meet our guest and hear her story. Welcome to Richer Soul, Carolin. It's great to have you join us today.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
And I'm excited to have you join us. So we always start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
That's a really good question. My first reaction was, well, they didn't teach me anything about money. They taught me a lot of other things. I grew up in Germany in the countryside, and my parents are both school teachers. So I've been thinking about this a lot. As a child, I always felt like there was enough. So I didn't grow up with the typical stories of parents telling me that money didn't grow on trees and so forth. I'd always a sense that we had enough, but obviously we weren't rich or anything. But money wasn't talked about. That's why I feel like I didn't learn about money. It wasn't a huge issue, but I also didn't learn much about it. My grandfather, he was really good with money. He was generous. He always had money. And he was good with math. So I don't know if I learned that somebody who's good at math is good with money, but I definitely learned that, just from absorbing that it's usually the men that make the money. And then also one thing I did kind of absorb is that my grandma and my mom kind of implied because I'm pretty, I'm not going to have a hard time finding a doctor or marrying rich or something like that. So that was kind of instilled in me that my way to money was through marrying. If anybody could get rich, it would be me because I was smart and I looked good, kind of a thing. But not through my own efforts, through marrying.
It's fine. Well, because we all have these money scripts that occur in childhood and these money mindsets that are created. And it seems like your parents created that particular one for you. How did that one work out?
Not so well. Because I was always somebody, in my life, I've gone between really wanting to be taken care of and then also being very rebellious and just wanting to figure it out myself. So it's been a constant inner conflict for a long time, because the part of me that just felt like, oh, I'm a woman and I can't and I don't know how. And then the other part of, well, I'm going to figure this out because I'm smart and I'm not going to want to be one of those women who just marries rich. I want to do it on my own terms. Yeah, they were battling inside of me for a long time.
I mean, I think we all have that battle, and it's trying to figure out our particular path and how it works out for us. And that's not always easy.
Yeah. And I mean, as a woman, it feels good to be provided for, right? Because I'm a woman. So in my relationships, I've had a long list of relationships where I was the one that made the money or organized the money. And obviously it did not work and left me very unhappy and kind of getting burned out and so forth. So at this point in my life, it does feel really good to be provided for, which doesn't mean I need to be taken care of completely, right? It's like I like making money and I make a lot of money. And at the same time, in an intimate relationship, it does feel good to have things provided to me, if that makes sense.
It does. It does very much. It's interesting hearing different perspectives and views on that, because I think it's changed over the years. I think in the past, that was kind of the cultural norm, is that the husband provided. In today's world, I think most families have two people working because that's kind of what they think they need to do, or they just want more. And so everyone kind of starts chasing the dollar instead of chasing life.
Yeah. And for the most part, the women that I know that have, fallen into that, they're not happy. Right? It doesn't make us happy to become a provider, or it makes us happy to make money, but just providing is essentially a masculine thing, right, to do it. And so as a woman, it leaves you not feeling so good after a while and resenting.
That's very true. So Are you doing anything different to teach your kids about money?
Yes. I have very entrepreneurial kids, and it's because I'm an entrepreneur, and their dad is an entrepreneur as well. And we talk a lot about money, and we talk about making money and ways to make money. I mean, I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was until I had my children and lived in the United States, basically. I didn't know that what I was an entrepreneur. I just never fit in and always couldn't figure out, I couldn't figure out how to work for other people. And I didn't know why that was. In Germany, we don't have, now maybe we do, but we didn't have people that were entrepreneurs. There were a few people who owned factories, and those guys were the entrepreneurs.
So you've had to learn a lot, and clearly coming from a different background and then trying to figure out a whole new way of living in the United States. And I guess a lot of times we think of Europe as very similar to the US, but in many ways it's probably considerably different.
Yeah.
These areas of entrepreneurship and how you create wealth.
Well, Germany is a socialized system, so everybody's taken care of. It's not so much that you really have to fend for yourself so much, right? In Germany, really everybody's basic needs, compared to the States, obviously, compared to the States, people have much more of a security blanket than anybody in the States has. And I grew up with that, so I'm actually still have that feeling like if something should happen, I can always go back to my mother country and be taken care of, which, always baffles people because when they're from other countries, they don't have that. But so there's not so much an incentive or a need to make sure you're like this completely independent thing.
So how does that affect you in a sense? Because I think there is a constant battle between it's nice to be taken care of, but at the same point, does it really make us happier, or does it somewhat take away from our happiness because we're being taken care of?
Saying being taken care of, its basic needs like school, health insurance. You would be living on $200 a month, basically. It's not a life, it's. I mean, if you basically want to just live in the system, you're giving up a lot because you're giving up your freedom, your flexibility. You won't be able to travel or do anything that's remotely fun in life, But you probably will not end up on the street. Basically, you'll be at a minimum survival level. Kept. So the difference is, for some people, I'm not going to go even into like mental health and so forth, right? So people that are mentally challenged and that cannot be, that just can't, they don't have the mental capacity to be entrepreneurs, they're provided for, that taken care of in the States, not so much, right? Or disadvantaged people, single mothers with babies and so forth. I don't see there's a disadvantage. Obviously, anybody who wants more than that, they need to find a way to create it for themselves.
And that you do. So in Germany, you actually studied and you're a naturopathic doctor. Mm-hmm. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so in Germany, the licensing is different than in the States. Basically, when you have a license as a naturopathic doctor, you can practice acupuncture, you can practice chiropractic, you can practice naturopathy, which is a form of medicine where you just basically, you're not allowed to do surgery, you're not allowed to treat infectious diseases, and you're not allowed to prescribe drugs. So a lot of the naturopaths work with chronic illnesses and all kinds of natural ways of healing, right? All the natural healing modalities, basically.
So what are some of the other natural healing modalities?
Homeopathy would be one, working with homeopathy or natural remedies. You can also work as more somatic, so, as basically helping people work through psychotherapy and psychosomatic therapy, work on their physical issues, which in the States I don't think you're allowed to do. You're either a psychotherapist or you're a doctor. You can't do both. You could do any kind of manual therapy, massage, craniosacral therapy, energy healing, like any kind of alternative healing methodology would fall under this. It's basically a level down from a regular doctor. So it's a medical degree that allows you to heal people any which way you see fit, basically, and are trained for.
Okay.
Once you've passed a medical test, once they know that you know what you're not allowed to do, and you can diagnose it and so forth.
And you spend a lot of time doing energy healing, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What exactly is that, and how does that come to be, and how does that help people?
Well, under energy medicine, there's many, many different modalities. So the one that I'm trained in is called family constellations. And when I talk about energy, I don't talk so much about something that's woohoo and that people, that some people can see auras and energy and so forth. I'm not talking about that necessarily. I'm talking about energy as like a physical, measurable thing. Einstein said that everything is energy at its core, right? We're all atoms, and atoms are just things that swirl, and the swirling is the energy. The motion that's created is the energy. And then on a physical level, our bodies, the nervous system is really our energetic system, right? It's where the information runs along, where it's our wiring, basically, where the electricity runs along in our body. And so I do a lot of work helping people where the wiring is not working correctly for whatever reason. Yeah. So for example, through a traumatic incident or for having inherited trauma, help them wire I always give the analogy of our body being a house with a certain wiring. And if you have had an experience that was traumatic, or your ancestors had an experience that was traumatic, the wiring in your house would have been fried. Actually, it's like lightning striking a house that wasn't properly grounded. And you can imagine when that happens, there's an impact in certain parts of the house that the wiring would just melt down, and then the appliances might not work, or the light in the bathroom might not work. So in different places of the house, the energy is just not, the electricity energy is not flowing correctly. And so it's the same with our body. And when that happens, it impacts the amount of energy that we have available to create our life, because creating our life takes focus and it takes energy, right? Most of the people that don't have what they want don't have it because they're too tired or too exhausted, or people think they don't have the time, but the don't having the time usually is connected to just feeling like you just don't have the energy. And when you do have the energy, you can get 10 times more done in a day than other people get done in a month. So and it is connected to the physical amount of energy that can run and be generated within our nervous system in our physical body.
So how do you repair the wiring, so to speak, within the body to allow the energy to flow?
So the first thing is to learn what it feels like to find the places that have gotten, shorted. So if we stay with the analogy of the lightning striking the house and your body being the house, and there's different parts in your house that melted down and so forth, the first step is to actually learn what it feels like to be in your body, because most of us, we're like living our life from the head up, from the neck up in the head. And then learn what it feels like to encounter these places in us, and basically realize that, let me just say, normally when we're triggered, we react and we want to change something outside ourselves, right? We want to change the person that upset us. We want to debate with them. We want to make them stop. We want to change the circumstances. Our attention is usually on changing whatever upsets us in the outside world. So when we can learn to stop that and to move inward. So when somebody upsets you, to move inward into your body and to locate what's actually going on inside your body, that's the first step. So let's say, you got an email this morning and somebody wanted something from you that was really upsetting to you. Rather than replying to that email, you would just take time and use your sensing capacity to then feel, does it feel like a knot in your stomach? Does it feel like a burning in your chest? Does it feel like, or maybe you have your fist clenched and you can feel how tight your fists are. So there's physical sensations. that give us clues. And then step one is learning to make the move from projecting everything outward onto feeling and sensing. And then this is where most people have a lot of difficulties too, is then staying with just sensing and not trying to explain it and analyze it and figure out why and so forth, but to literally just keep sensing that emotion, because what you're feeling is basically stuck negative emotion. And by feeling it, you transform it and turn it into positive emotion. It's an alchemical process. Sometimes I also like to give the picture of, imagine that the negative impact that you're becoming aware of is like an ice cube. And with your attention, you're thawing the water, you're turning it into gas, and then it can leave your system. And actually, once it's gas, it becomes a fuel, right? So that is the actual process.
Okay. And so I know you also talk about a vibration scale. Is that different than the energy, or do they go together, or is that how you measure the energy?
It goes together. So everything in the universe, and I didn't come up with all of this. I had an experience 5 years ago where I found myself in a very negative state of being, where I was going through bankruptcy. My marriage wasn't working. I had chronic fatigue and burnout. I couldn't get off the couch at all. I had 2 small children, and I literally couldn't open my eyes during the day. So I was in a very bad place. And it got so bad that one day I literally left my body. And I thought I was done, which I wasn't, because something sent me back into my body and said, "Hey, Carolin, your work isn't done." Yeah, then I was suspended in a state of clarity for 5 days, and basically could see how I was allowing negativity and how I had accumulated all this negativity. And then the state ended, and from then on, I was really very curious about learning how I had gotten in that state and how I could help myself to get back there and other people. And so the last 5 years I've spent on finding explanations and resources, and in helping people get into that state where everything flows. So to answer your question, everything in the universe is energy. Einstein already said that. And another man that I really appreciate. So in my research, a person that I came across is David D. Hawkins. He's a doctor. He's no longer living. But he did a lot of research on energy and energy levels and came up with what's called the scale of consciousness. And you can Google it and find it. And so he basically researched and found out that there's different emotional states that we experience correspond to different energetic or frequency levels. And this frequency is measured in hertz. So it's speed, basically. The faster something vibrates, the higher it gets. Everything that vibrates below 200 is life-destroying. Everything above 200 is life-giving. The emotional state that we experience at level 200 is courage, interestingly enough. So anything that's below courage, which is like fear and anger, hatred, doubt, depression, anxiety, and then shame and guilt are at the bottom. When we find ourselves in these states, it just means that our own vibrational frequency has dropped to that state. And so what I do in my work and what I teach people is how they can work on getting their vibrational state basically above 200, right? So that they can be healthy and wealthy and all those things, because everything that we want in life is above the level of 200, all the good things.
And so how do you change your vibrational level? I mean, essentially you're changing the state that you're in, because you can look at people, you can tell when somebody's mad or angry or depressed. You can just see it in them. They kind of bring that into the room. And if somebody's excited and in love, you look at them and you can feel it. So it's there. How do people change their state?
That's a really good question. So there's 4 levels. We have the physical, we have the emotional, we have the energetic, and then we have the spiritual. And there's things that we can do on all levels to change our vibration, basically. And obviously the physical is a really important one, because our physical body is the biggest mass in terms of like magnetic power that we have. If we are magnets and we're vibrating at a certain level, our physical body has 37 billion cells or something, right? It's a big mass. It's very powerful. And so it's really important what you put into your body, right? If you're just eating crap and are exposed to a lot of toxins, that will very much contribute to you feeling, or you being in a very low vibrational state and therefore feeling depressed and bad and, all those things, anxious and so forth. So food, our environment, toxins in our environment play a big role. And then on the emotional level, unintegrated emotions play unintegrated traumas and so forth. And one of the ways to clear them and help heal them is what we just went over. I call it the emotional integration tool. Working with somebody who does something like EFT or family constellations, like the energy work that I do, can help you. Some of the things you can do yourself in terms of again, in the emotional, energetic realm, there's things that you can do yourself. And then there's things where the thing that you can do for yourself is hire somebody who is an expert in, helping people heal the nervous system and helping people heal trauma and so forth. And then the spiritual, meditation, yoga, your own, whatever you do, whatever your practices that you do that connects you to something greater. It could be art, it could be movement, it could be nature. It's important that we make those things a priority. So to continue my story, I did end up leaving my marriage, and with that choice, I was completely on my own financially because my ex-husband is not a provider. He makes enough money to take care of himself, basically. So with me leaving, I was completely on my own financially. I was in a different country. I had moved to the United States. I had no support system physically there that I could just give the kids. Like I couldn't just give the kids to my mom and go working. So I was still recovering from the chronic fatigue. So I had to find a way to make a full-time income, which was about $5,000 a month in Santa Barbara. I was living in Santa Barbara at the time. I needed to find a way to make a full-time income in a very short amount of time, because going and working for a job was just, I would have made $600-700 a week or something, and that would have not cut it working 10 hours a day. And so in some ways I was blessed because my life forced me in a place where I really needed to find a solution to this problem. And luckily I had, through the experience that I had when I was catapulted out of my body, I had kind of like a hunch that if I put a lot of time into myself and helping myself feel good, that from that a lot of good would come. So I would actually put 10 hours I had 15 hours a week without my kids during the day where I was kind of functional. So I put 10 hours of my time into myself and self-care and doing, eating well, doing yoga, kind of the things I was just describing in terms of the 4 levels of care. And then 5 hours I was putting into building my business. And because I was putting so much time in myself, what happened was that my brain could actually get into a space of deep relaxation. And when we can help our brain to get out of fight or flight and stress mode, we also help it to access the creative field, or the field of all knowing, the field that has all the solutions. So unknowingly, what I was actually doing was helping my brain switch gears from being in survival and fight or flight into being into a genius mode, basically. Right? The ideas, the genius insights, they come when we do nothing, when we are relaxed and sing under the shower, or when we're driving and looking at the beautiful landscape. That's when the insights come. And so for me, I intuitively was able to get myself into these states, and then the ideas would just start coming. And then obviously I took action on those ideas, which is really important, right? It's not just enough to have the ideas, you actually have to take action. But because I was focusing on nurturing myself and sustaining myself, I had the energy to take the actions.
And that's a big part of it. I think it's beyond the idea is to actually take action. And that's the step that I think a lot of people miss, is they think about doing stuff, but they don't actually go do it. As you were talking about that, I remember hearing you say in the past that our subconscious mind wants us to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And it spends a large percentage of its time just making sure that that's the case. But safety isn't really what's going to give us success, is it?
No, because safety is basically just anything. The subconscious works in pictures. Any picture of the subconscious that it has around things that you have survived, it will make it feel like it's safe. That could be a horrible childhood, it could be horrible circumstances, but if you have survived it, it's filed in the subconscious as survivable and therefore safe. So the subconscious would rather you keep recreating that scenario because it knows it can survive it than do something like thriving that it has never experienced because it has never experienced it, so it thinks it's not safe.
Is that why people get stuck in patterns of doing the same mistakes over and over, I guess?
Yes. And the subconscious, some scientists say it makes up 95% of who we are and our creation powers. And so what most people do, they try to take the 5% that we have conscious power and try to overcome, or compete basically with 95% of subconscious. And you'll always fail when it would be so much easier to just change the image in the subconscious, basically, right? To basically help the subconscious replace these, basically, let's say in your subconscious it's safe to not have money. An expert, it doesn't have to be me, there's other experts too. An expert would know what to do with you in your subconscious to take that picture. It's like surgery, to take that picture out, put an image into your subconscious that's around, that's basically telling your subconscious that having money is safe, because it will go at great length to create that. Then it will always go at great length to create a matching situation for you, a matching reality to the image that it's holding. So in some ways, it's so much easier to hire somebody and help yourself that way than trying to use your 5% that you have. It's pretty much a losing battle.
We'll be back with Carolin in a moment. I'm amazed at how often I get stuck and don't make progress on my goals. I get stuck in patterns, and sometimes, as Carolin said, we need expert help to break through those barriers even faster. I work with small businesses to focus on their numbers so they can have the freedom they want. I'm amazed at how many business owners ignore their numbers for a variety of reasons. We're in business to make a profit so we can enjoy the fruits of our labor. Get focused on the numbers so you can have freedom. If you need help, reach out and let's see if I'm a good fit. If not, I'm happy to help you find someone who is. And for a lot of people, I may just answer that lingering question that you have. And off you go to accomplish your dreams. Email me. It's rocky@richersoul.com. Now, let's get back to our amazing conversation with Carolin Hauser and see how she's able to bring about change in her life. So what have you seen as the fastest or more productive ways to change that 95% picture to a more positive, better picture? What if somebody says, I want to change my picture, who do you call?
I would find somebody who does family constellations, because family constellations is a modality that really does that. And just to give you an idea, the background why I got into it and how powerful it is. I was anorexic and bulimic for 10 years. So from when I was 10 till I was 20, I was in a very dark place. And when you've suffered with an addiction for 10 years, your chances of recovery by the medical field are at 5%. So I was basically, the chance that I had to recover was 5%. That means when I was 20, there was a 95% chance I would not live to be 30. So that was pretty dark. And so luckily my mother never gave up and kept looking, and I tried I wanted to get better. That was not the question. I wanted to just have a normal life. I just wanted to be able to get married and have children. That's all I wanted from life. And luckily my mom didn't give up and found family constellations, and she kind of schlepped me to a workshop. because we didn't know what it was. So we went. And the people that were the facilitators, they took me through a 45-minute experience. And within 6 months, I was able to overcome, the eating disorders and be completely healed. So it saved my life. I owe everything that I have now to that modality and to those people that helped me in that one session.
And I think people will probably have a hard time believing that one session can change your life. What was it that occurred? What exactly is the modality that allowed that to happen? I guess in more depth.
Yeah, so you really have to experience it, but basically I could talk about the process for an hour now, but what the process does is it takes the unhealthy picture and replaces it with a healthy. So for me, the eating disorders were linked to surviving. Like, I only survived because I had the eating disorder. If I hadn't had the eating disorders, I would have killed myself, essentially. That's what I learned. And so for me, even though I thought the eating disorders were killing me, and they were, in my subconscious, they were linked with the necessity for me. I had to have the eating disorders because the subconscious believed that was my way of surviving. And so once that was corrected, to realizing, once you bring stuff out of the subconscious into the conscious mind, then it's like, duh, this is, like, I'm fighting something that I was fighting the eating disorders, thinking it's killing me, when it was the thing that kept me alive and was trying to keep me alive. And so then basically the eating disorders, and in the constellation, oftentimes the reason why we suffer things is because things are not in the right place. So, the eating disorders being the thing that's keeping me alive was not in the right place. That because the eating disorder was really the thing that was killing me. So once my life and my life force got into the right place of survival, and once it was clear that health was the thing that would keep me alive, so the picture that got exchanged for me was the eating disorder and versus health, basically, right? The healthy picture. Then my subconscious just went and kept creating the reality that, that me being healthy was the thing that would help me survive, which it then did over time.
It did.
And I have to tell you, I didn't make the connection because I went to the weekend workshop. It was all super emotional. It was great. But then I went home and I was like, okay, now what? And then I had bulimia and anorexia. So I had my first binging attack. I went to the store, I bought a bunch of food, and then I only ate half, the first week. Then a month later, I would go to the store, buy a bunch of stuff, and not eat it. Then a month later, I wouldn't even feel the urge to go to the store anymore. So, so gradually it seemed like I had the willpower to not do the things, right? But so I didn't put two and two together until way later, because somebody then asked me, so how are you doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And it was like, why do you think you're fine now? I'm like, yeah, I was all of a sudden, I just had the willpower to overcome this. And then I remembered that I had gone and get that session, like a year ago or something. And then I'm like, wow, yeah, it wasn't really me that was able to do all these things. I was able to do these things because I had that session.
And getting help is a big part of it. And you have to find the right help, and it's not always easy to do that.
No.
So you wrote a book, too, The Pleasure IQ, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What is that book all about?
Basically, what I have found in my own journey is that we need a new kind of intelligence, which I call pleasure intelligence. Pleasure intelligence is you knowing what feels good to you and making decisions based on that. When you do that, it's actually a way, it's the only way that I found that you can also, over time, override your negative subconscious programming. Right? So family constellations is a way that can help you, but you have to hire another person. Focusing on pleasure and learning what feels good to you, right in your body, and making decisions based on that is a way that you yourself can learn and use to override the subconscious programming, because we are all born with a connection to our North Star. And our North Star is basically the place or the universe where you are living your full potential, where you feel amazing, where you have all the resources and where you're really being and doing the person that you know that you can be. We're all born with a sense. That's why we also know when things aren't right. And so we have like a connection, like an umbilical cord to that, I call it the paradise, really, to that alternate universe. It's a universe that's at a high vibration. So usually when we're not there, it just means we're in a universe that's lower vibrational, and all we have to do is get our emotions and vibrations up to speed, and we end up in that paradise universe. And pleasure, the feeling of something feeling good and right, and I'm redefining pleasure here because a lot of people, when I first talk about pleasure, they think sex. And sex obviously is something that can make you feel really good or feel really shitty, but it's a part of it. But the way I use pleasure is as a feeling in your body that makes you feel really good. So pleasure is the guide. When you're not feeling good, it means you're not moving in the right direction. You're moving away from getting closer to your paradise, to your North Star. When you're feeling right and when you're feeling good, even though it might be scary, it might not make sense and so forth, but you know that you're following your gut, you're moving closer towards a reality, where you're living in your paradise. So pleasure is key, in my opinion, to overcoming these self-imposed limitations or, blocks and negative patterns, and helping ourselves end up in a beautiful life. I'm really taking a stand for everybody that wants to and is willing to be able to live in their own paradise in this lifetime, to create their own paradise in this lifetime. I believe it's possible, and that there's enough for everybody to have that experience on this earth.
Why do you think most people aren't living in paradise?
Yeah, that's a good. Well, my own theories, and David D. Hawkins talks about this too, because he has tested how many people live on different levels. So most people, 98% of society, live below 200. And Napoleon Hill, in Outwitting the Devil, in his book Outwitting the Devil, he talks about that too. He talks about how 98% of people have fallen into the grip of the devil, basically, into negativity. The devil is just basically negativity, negative forces, if you want to say it. And we're all in an evolutionary process where, people are waking up and more people are waking up, but it will take a while to change that number. So that's why I believe it is what it is.
And it's a shame, because we do have the ability to change ourselves and to live the life of our dreams. But you need to take action and figure out how to do that for yourself.
Yeah, if you just go into a regular grocery store, most of the stuff that you can buy off the shelf is toxic for the human body, and it's sold there. I believe that it's the big companies know exactly what they're doing by selling that stuff, And so it starts at a very basic level where if you don't have money, you can only eat shitty food because it's cheap, right? And then it's you just have no chance almost, unless you start educating yourself and really putting effort, going completely against the grain of everybody else, which can be tough.
And it is. And I think that's what people need to realize. If you want to create your dream life, you kind of have to go against the grain of everyone else. Because if everyone else is in the drift, or if everyone else is vibrating at a low level and you want to break free of that, you can't do what everybody else is doing. You've got to do things differently in order to achieve success. And I think that is a very difficult thing to overcome, because again, our subconscious mind wants to keep us safe. And so it's going to do everything it can to keep you safe, which is essentially keeping you in the drift and not allowing you to live that thrilling life.
Exactly. And so while it can be lonely, it doesn't have to be, because even though it's just 2% of people that are awake and aware, it's 2% of 7 billion. So that's a ton of people also, right? So you're actually not alone. Find people and surround yourself with the people that are working towards a better life or are already living a better, I always have a mentor. I always have somebody who is that person for me, because it's like buying insurance that I don't fall back.
It's true.
Because I know that if I don't, the forces are too the magnetic pull of them, the 98% is huge.
That it is. How do you know if someone's vibrating at a high frequency? How can you tell if it's really true or if it's kind of made up in a sense?
If your intuition really developed, you can feel it. I mean, for yourself, when you're feeling really peaceful, and also generally a person who is healthy, who has peaceful relationships, who you can, over time when you're with somebody, you can figure out if somebody is real or not. Like if you feel good around that person, if they make you feel good, if they do things that feel good to you, if they're being kind, a high vibrational person will be generous, will be kind, will be all inclusive, will be loving, and you will feel drawn to them and you feel good. They will not try to manipulate you. They will not try to get anything from you. Those are all attributes of a person that lives at a higher consciousness where they know that they're provided for and they're taken care of, and that love is really the biggest force in the universe and so forth. We feel drawn to people like that, right? Because they just feel good to us. They make us feel good.
And you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So surrounding yourself with better people will help to pull you up. So since all these changes, you've learned to become an entrepreneur, and I'm assuming you now have achieved financial success. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. I've built a multi-six-figure company just selling myself, basically my energy, my out there energy healing modalities. I'm currently talking to you from a beautiful beach home on the Mayan Riviera near Tulum. So I live there now full time. I'm living the dream. I'm sipping coconuts every day. I'm working 4 hours for my laptop. I have great people that I work with. I've helped. What's more, to me, it's great. The financial success is great. But to me, actually, what's even better is that I've really helped 5,000 or more people in the last 5 years. And I'm intending to help millions, so that's what makes me really happy at this point.
So for most of these people, what is it that you've allowed them to do? What have you changed in their lives that they're able to have a better life?
So for a lot of people, it's really helping them release guilt and shame from their subconscious. That's one of the biggest blocks. I've also helped them heal. Guilt and shame often is connected to sexual trauma or just sexual stuff, because our sexuality is so deeply connected to our core. So those are kind of the things that I've helped them shift. And by shifting, so they have been able to move out of a paradigm where they were working really hard. Some people I have one client, she was working 8 years together with her husband to build up a business nonstop, day and night. Their marriage almost didn't make it. To then helping them shift out of that paradigm, and so they ended up making $1 million because they built a business and sold it. Took them 8 years and almost cost them their marriage. I helped them basically shift into a different paradigm where in a year, they took the whole year off. They traveled as a family. They were able to find ways to make money in a much easier and quicker way without actually needing a lot of their time. And so they made almost the same amount of money in a year by traveling the world and working less. And obviously their marriage is rekindled, and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know this was still possible. We feel like teenagers again. Stuff like that, and I have several clients like that where they were working really hard to make their money, and by shifting, they found different ways. They had to change, they had to change their business models or change the way they were doing things. But the way to the ease is always there. That's not the question. It's the question, are you willing, to do the inner work and release the stuff that's holding you connected to the old way of doing? So a lot of people, when people work with me, their money shifts, the ease with money shifts, and also their relationships. If they're single, I've helped a lot of people shift into a reality where they're now not single anymore and in happy relationships. And everybody's health is increasing. So when you're working on shifting, you're shifting up in all levels. And I work with everybody that I work with on all the 4 levels. I help them with the transitioning into a better diet. I help them with transitioning out of the emotional negativity and heal their nervous system. And we work on, they learn the tools that they need to be doing to keep their vibration up, basically. And then I also hold them accountable. And part of a mentor is, a mentor's role is really to help hold you accountable and to say, hey, you made a promise to yourself, not to me. Like, why are you not keeping your promise? Let's look at that. You say you want this. Like, why are you doing this over here? That's clearly complete opposite.
And I think a lot of people do that. They all say they want X, and yet they're all doing Y, even though they know that that's not going to get them to where they need to be.
Yeah, and the X is the conscious mind and the Y is the unconscious mind. And when we observe ourselves, we will actually hear it. Like, we will say one thing and the next sentence is the exact opposite, often. And so, I'm not here to cuddle people. I'm here to help people see what they're really doing. So, oftentimes people will get mad at me sometimes, but when I work with someone, we always make sure that the relationship is the basis. Like, it needs to be somebody who can really trust. There's trust. And when the trust is there, then I can say things. I've had people walk away, when I tell them what I see, or people that think, oh, they know it all, and, discount what I say and think that what I'm saying is, just doesn't apply to them. I have those people too. But the people that can trust the process and are coachable and actually take in what I say and don't take it as a criticism, but really look at themselves, they will all create the results and create amazing results.
And I think that's a big part of it is you have to be coachable. You have to be willing to take feedback, and you have to be willing to listen and to make a shift. And I talk about that a lot is, as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. But when you get sharpened, there's a lot of sparks, and you've got to deal with the heat, and you have to put up with the process. And it isn't easy. But when you go through it and you make those changes, then you see a dramatic shift in your life. And I know, look, just seeing your life story, there's a dramatic shift from where you were to where you are now.
Yeah, in a very short amount of time. It's only taken really for the real shift. It took 2.5 years for me to shift out of feeling, well, not even, maybe a year, and I started feeling better and having better relationships and so forth. So it doesn't have to take very long. And the other thing I wanted to say, also be discerning who you listen to. Don't listen to everybody. Like, find the people that you can verify that they've actually done what you want to accomplish, and then listen to those people only. And don't listen to your aunt. Don't listen to your friend who has an opinion, like, very different who you actually do listen to.
And I think that's important. You have to find people who've walked the path that you're trying to walk, who are ahead of you and who figured out a way through it. And those are the ones who are best to listen to.
Yep.
So is there anything else that you want to share on the subject of living a richer, more meaningful life, but didn't get a chance to?
Well, the one thing I always want to impart in people, so if this is the only thing that you take from this interview, is that we do not have power over other people. We do not have power over other circumstances, but we have complete control over our own vibrational state. So my recommendation is that, you make learning about how you can shift your own state a top priority, and keep it simple. It's not about learning new tools and 500 affirmations and 555 processes and so forth. It's really find things that help you shift your vibration and stick with them. Like, I have 3 or 4 tools that I use, and those are the tools. They're not fancy. They're not, and I need to use them every day. And then when I do them over time, I see big results. It's not glamorous, but the power is totally in your hand, is what I'm saying.
So what are those 4 tools that you use every day?
They're connected to this level. So I really make sure that I eat mostly fruits and vegetables. Right, so I've transitioned out of eating like most people eat, and I eat a very high vibrational diet. It took 3 years to get there. But I take very good care of my health and my body. I exercise, I do yoga and so forth. So that's one thing. The other is really using the emotional integration tool that I was describing. I do live by making decisions based on what feels right and good to me. That's another process. And I have a spiritual practice that I'm very dedicated to. So those are my four daily things that I do. or am committed to, and just keep using every day. They come before everything else. They come before emails and phone calls and taking the cat's litter boxes out and so forth.
And that's why I think a morning routine is so important. You have to get done the most important things first. And if you start your day right, the rest of the day flows from that. But you've got to start your day right.
1,000%.
So based on our conversation, what's one action step people can take to move forward this week?
Well, they could look at their diet and see if they want to just add more fruits and vegetables into their diet, for example, if they want to do it on a physical level. They could take on a meditation practice or research meditation and find one that fits them for the spiritual. They can use the emotional. So I'm giving you 4 because I'm talking about these 4 levels. They can start using the emotional integration tool, and they can start feeling when they're making a decision. Feeling, am I making that automatically, or is it something that I really want to say yes to? For example, when you're choosing your lunch, to be really like, what is it that would feel really good to me right now, and make decisions based on that.
Thank you for sharing. And I think none of these things is very difficult. They're all small steps. And literally, that is what brings success, is taking these little steps and just doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah, and the picture that I give for that is like when you have a boat and you set off to sail across a big ocean, if you're just 1 degree off, over time, you will end up in a completely different destination than what you would have set out to. So that's why the small steps over time make you create a big change over time, because you will end up in a completely different destination just by a small correction.
And that is very true. It's time to learn the secrets of life. It's time to learn about the secrets to living an abundant life. What's your secret to living life?
So for me, because of my story, I have a really big fear that I will die before I have done what I came here to do. Basically, that's my secret. I'm terrified that I will not live my full potential and basically die and think, oh my God, like I wasted all my time in life. So therefore, I'm very aware every day to do the best, to just live the best that I can, basically.
What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
If you want to have a certain lifestyle, there's only so many ways that can get you there, right? Like working a job, or there's only certain things and businesses that will help you create what you want. So be mindful and listen to other people and really make choices that can actually deliver what you're looking for. If that makes sense.
It does. And what's one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
It's all going to work out.
And that's true. You know what? I think at the end, we worry about so much, and yet it all works out, doesn't it?
Yep.
So if people would like to find you and connect, what's the best place and way for them to do that?
That's my website, which is carolinhauser.com, and it's spelled CAROLINHAUSER.com. On my website, I have a free gift that will teach you how to recognize a true yes and a true no in your body, which a lot of people have trouble with. And there's also a bonus recording of the emotional integration tool that we just spent 5 minutes on. There's a longer version that you can get when you give me your email, basically. I also have a free Facebook group where I do stuff every day. On my website, you will find a link that says free Facebook group. The Facebook group is called High Vibrational Living. If you're on Facebook, you can also just look for the group, High Vibrational Living, and you'll find it this way. I'm very active on Facebook, just under my name again. So those are the best ways to connect. But you can find connections to all of that from my website, which is carolinhauser.com.
And thank you for sharing that. And we'll have that in the show notes as well so that people can easily find it and click. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
There's a direct correlation between our thoughts, our actions, and the results we get. Having that support team of mentors, coaches, masterminds helps us to ensure that we stay on the path to success and dramatically shifts the success curve. You do have to do the work, and you have to keep showing up. Did you notice how Carolin has integrated her health, mindsets, spirituality all together? She shows up and she keeps taking small steps. Is your compass set in the right direction, or do you need to make a small course correction? Remember, as she said, a 1-degree change over time leads to a dramatically different destination. You don't need massive change, just little course corrections. I had a session with Caroline, like she mentioned in the show. The change following a session takes time. For her, it was 6 months. I'm willing to wait and see how the results change me, and I'm looking forward to it. This week's action step was pretty big. Review your diet, check out meditation, use the emotional integration tool, review how you feel about the decisions you're making. That's a lot for 1 week. So why not just pick the one that excites you most and do it? I'd love to hear how it worked out. You can find Carolin at carolinhauser.com, and you can check out her Facebook group, High Vibrational Living. There's links to both in the show notes. I have to say, after listening to her and the birds in the background, I think I may want to move to a tropical island and enjoy life like she does. I guess I'll have to start investigating those choices. If you're still listening, you must have liked today's episode. So please share it with a few friends, and if you get a chance, leave a review. I would appreciate that. You can also connect with me on Facebook. There's both a Facebook page and a Facebook group for Richer Soul. What's preventing you from moving forward, and who are you putting on your team to build the life you deserve? Taking no action creates a far worse outcome in life than trying something and failing. Can I help you achieve your goals through coaching and accountability? Just email me, and we'll start with a short chat to see if we're a good fit. For many people, one session allows them to take a giant leap forward towards their dreams. And today, you heard how one session changed Carolin's life. You can get me at rocky@richersoul.com. I'd love to hear how you're doing and how the information I've shared has helped. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week.